Welcome to the second production of Beatitudes Readers Theater. I hope you got to see The Three Friars, but if you didn't get to see it or would like to watch it again, just go out to www.beatitudescampus.net and click on Readers Theater. If you would like to be a reader next month or any other month, use the link under Readers Theater and click on How Do I Participate?
This month, we are tackling Davey, Crockett, Freeze the Sun. It's a short play by T.P. Jagger, a teacher and author. It's meant for kids, but most of us are kids at heart, so we hope you enjoy it.
It's been said that Davy Crockett shot his first bear when he was only 3.
Well, David Crockett also killed a bear when he was 3. But he was so strong, he used his bare hands.
It's been said that Davy Crockett could whoop any creature looking for a fight.
Wildcats, grizzlies, wolves, panthers, crocodiles,
And even 10-foot rattlesnakes.
Well, David Crockett could whop all the creatures too, but he was so tough he'd whop them all at the same time and use the rattlesnake to tie him up and set him in a corner for an evening snack when he was done.
And finally, the legend is that once upon a time, Davy Crockett saved the earth by unfreezing the sun.
Well, that's just a plain old ordinary
Stinking lie.
Now, it's true that Davy Crockett was involved, but only David Crockett was strong enough, smart enough, and brave enough for earth-saving work like that. Davy Crockett, however, had a better publicity agent, so he got most of the credit. Here's the story of how it really happened.
It all started one summer morning in the middle of August when David Crockett woke up with cold toes.
What's going on? My toes are freezing. It's the middle of summer.
Crockett looked down at his feet. He had on his wool socks, but his feet were encased in solid blocks of ice.
That's when Davy Crockett came stomping through the woods, hollering for help.
Unfortunately, David Crockett had no idea what Crockett was saying because Crockett's words froze in midair as soon as they were out of his mouth. So David took off the crock pot he wore for a hat, plucked Crockett's frozen words right out of the air, and popped them into the pot until they were thawed.
Crockpot, we got a problem.
I know. I hate having cold toes.
It's worse than that. Look.
Crockett pointed at the sunrise. The summer sunlight was turning to ice right in the sky.
David Crockett knew where that weather came from. He jammed on his crockpot back on his head and hustled up north.
Follow me, Davy. We're going north.
Davy Crockett trailed behind him, slogging through the ice and snow, kind of whimpering now and then along the way.
When the two men got to the North Pole, it didn't take Crockett long to figure out what had happened. He pointed into the sky, and then he pointed out the problem to Crockett.
Look it. The comet must have got too close to the earth. It's wrapped its tail around and it stopped the North Pole so it can't spin the earth.
No wonder the sun froze, but I bet I can fix it.
Davy Crockett tried to untie the comet's tail, but even his strong hands couldn't do it.
This here thing is knotted up worse than the intestines of a back-flipping grizzly bear with indigestion. It ain't budging.
David Crockpot used a different approach. Instead of trying to outmuscle the knot, he folded his arms across his chest and glared at the comet real mean-like.
If you don't get yourself off this comet right quick, I'm gonna have my dog Holly chew on your tail and bite it off.
Well, David Crockpot's hound dog Hallie had quite the reputation. The comet knew that Hallie could drool an entire lake of slobber in a single day. And no way did that comet want its tail chewed off by a hound and its light extinguished by a bunch of dog spit. So
The comet unknotted itself, lickety-split.
As soon as the comet had untied itself, David Crockpot grabbed its tail in one huge hand, twirled it around his head 7 or 8 times, and flung it back into outer space, like he was throwing a boomerang.
David's boomerang throw is why that same comet keeps circling back around to visit Earth every 76 years or so.
And because of Hallie, David's hound dog, we call it Hallie's Comet to this day.
But
there is still a problem.
Even with the comet untangled, the Earth still couldn't spin because it had been stopped for so long and had frozen in place. Even the sun got caught up by the comet, and it too had frozen in space.
Now, Davy Crockett was a brave man, but even he wasn't brave enough to face the prospect of our entire universe turning into an eternal icicle.
We're doomed.
David Crockpot rolled his eyes.
Oh, stop your belly aching and worrying. I'll just use my head.
David snatched the crockpot hat off his head and tried sliding the sun into it to thaw. Unfortunately, the sun was too big.
I knew it. We're doomed.
But David Crockpot was too smart to have his plan undone by a small problem or even a small pot.
He jammed the crock pot back on his head and started to think the deepest, most profound philosophical thoughts that he'd ever thunk.
David meditated about life.
He reflected on the relationship between space and time.
He contemplated the practicality of inventing crocodile skin raincoats.
And he wondered just why David Reagan liked donuts and pizza so much.
With each new thought, David's head grew.
And then he grew some more.
Faster than a possum can play dead, David Crockpot's head was bigger than the sun.
And since he'd been wearing his hat the whole time he'd been doing all his thinking, the crock pot was bigger than the sun, too.
David took the crock pot off his head and slid the sun into it.
But
The polar bears hadn't paid the electric bill, so none of the North Pole's electrical outlets were working, and the crock pot's cord just dangled uselessly.
Davy Crockett started to panic.
Why, I told you. We're doomed.
Would you knock it off? All your whining and whimpering, I'm gonna do me some home cooking.
David Crockpot took the Crockpot's electrical cord and rammed the two-pronged plug right up his nostrils.
You see, because of all of David Crockpot's deep philosophical thinking, it had done more than just given him a supersized brain. It had also given him a supercharged brain.
The electricity zipped from David's brain out of his nose, powering his crockpot lickety-split.
Within minutes, the sun had thawed and started moving across the sky again.
And the earth, with a mighty rumble, began to turn once more.
David Crockpot winked at Davy Crockett as he slid his hat back on his head.
Told you.
Then, right before the sun rose out of reach, David Crockpot snipped two tiny slivers of sunlight from the edge. He stuffed a sliver into each of his socks.
Ah, hey, cold toes.
And with that, David Crockpot tucked in for the night.
We hope you enjoyed this story.
And we hope you will join us next month for
Bum, ba-dum, bum. Dragnet.